person.
Okay, so good afternoon, sir, and my friends. I'm Suranshu from Department of Political Science at Guise University. My paper is under the Guise of War, the exploitation of human rights in armed conflict mobilization. I'll try to keep it simple and short. First, the introduction, understanding the intersection of armed conflict and human rights exploitation. In a world plagued by conflict and armed violence, human rights often become casualties. The devastating consequences of armed conflict go beyond visible damage, they tear at the core of humanity. This article delves into the intricate relationship between human rights and armed conflict, examining the impact of war on the rights and well-being of individuals and communities. By exploring the mobilization of armed conflict and its implications, this piece sheds light on the complex dynamics that perpetuate and exacerbate human rights violations during times of war. From the disruption of basic services to the displacement of millions, armed conflicts have far-reaching consequences that demand our attention. Now, defining armed conflict mobilization and its connection with human rights. Now, armed conflict mobilization particularly refers to the process of preparing, organizing, and deploying military forces for war or conflict. It encompasses the recruitment, training, and deployment of combatants as well as the logistical and strategic planning involved in military operations. Mobilizing large-scale segments of society for the war efforts often requires curtailing civil liberties, imposing states of emergency, and limiting freedom of expression or association, all in an attempt to consolidate power during times of national crisis. Next, the importance of human rights in armed conflict. Upholding human rights not only ensures respect for the fundamental worth and equality of all individuals, but also provides guidelines for fair treatment, protection from harm, and access to justice. The Geneva Conventions provide real examples of protection during armed conflicts, including rules for human treatment of prisoners of war and the wounded, and the prohibition of torture and other cruel treatment. Now, early instances till modern times of human rights exploitation in armed conflict. During the ancient period, armed conflict provided fertile ground for the gross violation of human rights. One example is the use of child soldiers in ancient times. In ancient Greece, children as young as 7 were coerced into military service and exposed to unimaginable horrors on the battlefield. These young combatants faced physical and psychological abuse, including forced labor, sexual exploitation, and indoctrination into violence. Similarly, during the Roman Empire, underage boys were forcibly recruited into the army to serve as cannon fodder or participate in gladiatorial games. There have been numerous instances of human rights exploitation in armed conflict that highlight the darkest aspects of warfare. One prominent historical example is the Nazi regime during World War II, where 6 million Jews were exterminated, standing as a heroic testament to this exploitation. A similar incident happened when America mercilessly dropped 2 atomic bombs, the Fat Man and the Little Boy, on innocent Japanese civilians, and around 32,210 tons of napalm bombs on innocent Vietnamese peoples during the Eastern Theater. People got killed and destroyed in seconds. But then America justified their war crimes by saying that to protect democracy and defend humanity they did this. In the current scenario, we can also see the ongoing war between Israel and Palestine, Russia and Ukraine. Russia's military occupation of Ukraine has caused immense problems to native citizens. The United Nations Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine has documented a wide range of human rights violations, including the UN has documented cases of extrajudicial killings of civilians by Russian forces, including summary executions, targeted killings, and indiscriminate shellings of civilian areas. The UN has documented cases of torture and other inhuman treatment or punishment by both Russian and Ukrainian forces. In the ongoing armed Israel-Palestine war of 2023, the Israeli Defense Forces were accused of excessive use of force targeting civilian. Yes, sir. Israeli Defense Forces were accused of excessive use of force targeting civilian infrastructure and conducting indiscriminate attacks on populated areas. On the other hand, armed groups in Palestine resorted to launching rockets towards Israeli civilian areas without any regard for the principle of distinction between military targets and civilians. Now, consequences and impacts. Assessing the long-term effects of human rights violations in armed conflict. First, socioeconomic disparities and inequality. The underlying economic disparities in society are intensified during times of conflict, leading to increased exploitation and vulnerability of marginalized groups. Second, political instability and corruption. In nations where governance is weak or corrupt, state institutions fail to protect the rights of their citizens. Corrupt officials make profit from conflict-related activities, ignoring or even actively perpetuating human rights abuses. Third, psychological trauma and post-conflict rehabilitation. Rebuilding lives and communities in the aftermath of conflict requires comprehensive post-conflict rehabilitation programs that address both the physical and psychological needs of survivors. Now, accountability and justice. Efforts to address human rights exploitation during armed conflict. Accountability mechanisms can take various forms, including domestic prosecutions, international tribunals, and truth and reconciliation commissions. These mechanisms aim to uncover the truth, establish responsibility, and provide reparations to victims. Now, the role of International Criminal Court and prosecution of war crimes in protecting human rights during the armed conflict. The International Criminal Court was established to prosecute individuals responsible for the most serious crimes, including war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. Prosecution of perpetrators sends a strong message that such acts will not go unpunished. It acts as a deterrent, strengthens the rule of law, and provides victims with a sense of justice. In conclusion, the ongoing struggle of human rights in times of armed conflict is a complex and deeply challenging issue that requires careful consideration and action on multiple fronts. While there have been significant advancements in international law and the establishment of organizations such as the International Criminal Court, countless violations persist in various war-torn regions around the world. The protection of human rights during armed conflict demands a comprehensive approach that includes not only legal frameworks but also diplomatic efforts, humanitarian interventions, and grassroots advocacy. These atrocities highlight the desperate need for strong international institutions that prioritize protecting human rights even during times of armed conflict. In such challenging circumstances, the principles of humanity, impartiality, neutrality, and independence becomes paramount. Only by doing so we can thrive towards a world where everyone can live free from fear and enjoy their fundamental freedom. Thank you, Jay.